Everyone watches in surprise as the hooded figure defeats the leader of the bullies. One of the bullies' companions attacks him, but the hooded figure easily overpowers him. The other two also attack, and one of them manages to cut the hooded figure's sword, but the figure uses a spell to wield the leader's sword and defeats them in a single move. The athletes, witnessing this, decide to run away from him, but the hooded figure leaps and blocks their path. Haruka is taken back to the town in a carriage, despite his cries of complaint and pleas. Marielle insists on rewarding him for saving her. They arrive at the mansion of the city's lord. Haruka looks at the portraits and, realizing he's alone, tries to escape. However, Marielle catches him in his escape attempt and reminds him she asked him to wait while she changed clothes. Haruka lies, saying he was just going to wait outside. Marielle grows increasingly irritated, and finally she gives him his reward, arranging a grand feast for him. Haruka can't resist and begins devouring everything. Marielle also gives him a bag of money, and since Haruka has no form of identification, she gives him some business cards that allow him to enter and exit the city whenever he likes. Haruka isn't really paying attention, too focused on the banquet, which saddens Marielle, as he doesn't even notice that she dressed up nicely for him. The next day, the girls interrogate Haruka about what he was doing the previous day. He tells them he was invited to the Lord's house while they were away, but the class representative doesn't understand why he was invited and suspects Haruka was trying to escape the city. He denies everything and tries to evade the questions. One of the girls says it's enough and reminds them it's time for a guild mission. They all leave, warning him once more not to leave the city. Haruka agrees, but as soon as they're gone, he knows it's time to try another escape. He heads to the exit, but before that, he decides to spend some of the money Marielle gave him. He eats everything he can that doesn't have mushrooms and writes a letter to the representative explaining everything. The letter says he's going to find the athletes and try to level up so he can join them. Haruka truly feels worried about his companions. He heads for the exit, shows his ID to the guard, and is allowed to leave freely. Haruka is determined to return to the forest, and if he sees any cart in trouble on the way, he won't even look. Finally, he returns to the forest, sees the mushrooms, riverfish, and goblins. He longs to go back home, but suddenly, an orc attacks him from behind. Haruka manages to defeat it with a single blow from his staff. He realizes it's a great weapon, and that combining all those items may have been a good investment. His solo life will be much easier. As he ventures further into the forest, he notices something is wrong. He finds a bloodstain from a fight. He worries it might belong to the nerds, but dismisses the thought since they specialize in Isekai. He assumes it's the athlete's blood and suspects the bullies haven't left the forest and are likely responsible. Haruka finds a trail and, worried, decides to follow it. He remembers the athletes were protecting the girls from the bullies and wonders if they fought them. Finally, he reaches the end of the trail and finds the athletes beaten and in very bad shape. He notices they're still alive and quickly pours his mushroom potion on them, and after a few seconds, they regain consciousness. The leader of the athletes asks Haruka if he's okay. Haruka replies that he should worry about himself and assures him the girls are safe thanks to their protection. The athletes tell Haruka what happened, how the hooded figure defeated the bullies and they couldn't stand against him. They recognize he's very strong and was able to steal their weapons and equipment with his skill, but they know who he'll go after next, the class representative, as she has the looting ability which allows her to steal skills. Haruka is surprised, as only he and Oda were supposed to know she had that ability. The athlete leader explains they only found out because the hooded figure kept asking where she was, but if he knew that, he must have gotten that information from somewhere else. Still, when he was about to deliver the final blow, he stopped. They think he did so because he thought they would go for help, but instead of going with their comrades, they crawled to that place, thinking he would follow the trail there. The leader of the athletes asks Haruka to fight with them to defeat him, but Haruka doesn't really want to get involved, but he can't refuse. The athletes are happy, but Haruka tells them he wants to fight alone. The athletes are surprised by this and think he doesn't understand the enemy's power, but they realize he has a plan and agree to follow him. Haruka orders them to go back to town and apologize to the class rep for being so foolish, then chases them away. The athletes, slightly offended, agree and leave. Haruka knows it would have been better to fight with them, but if they all fall, no one will protect the girls. So it's his responsibility to stop that thing, alone. Meanwhile, the girls search for Haruka around town, but it's no use. One girl tries to calm the representative down, assuring him that she'll be back as she said in her note. Haruka prepares his plan. The athletes told him everything they knew about the enemy's ability to steal weapons. He knows these abilities are among the most powerful, but also knows their weakness. Once the attack begins, it's impossible to cancel it, leaving the user exposed to a counterattack. He reviews his skill inventory looking for something to exploit that weakness. Goblins arrive, attracted by the trail, and Haruka analyzes them, discovering they are at a much higher level than they should be. Haruka takes the opportunity to defeat them, hoping to level up soon. Yet it's not enough, and he hopes something bigger appears soon, and it does. From among the trees, a goblin king appears. The monster charges quickly at him, trying to attack. Haruka barely dodges, realizing that without his evasive cloak, things could have gone very wrong. The Goblin King continues attacking, with fast and powerful strikes. Haruka can't find a way to counter, so he decides it's a good time to try out his secret weapon. He uses magical wrapping and combines a bunch of skills which coat his staff, allowing him to deliver a quick attack that defeats the Goblin King in a single move. Haruka discovers that combining many weak skills yields something new and powerful. Suddenly, a strange creature appears behind him, a level 50 Goblin Emperor. Haruka knows he can't fight something like that head-on at his current level, but he has no other choice. He combines his skills again and unlocks the invention ability. He attacks as quickly as he can. The blow hits the Goblin Emperor, knocking it down. But it gets back up, staggers a bit, and attacks Haruka with great speed. Haruka barely dodges its attacks, and as soon as he finds an opening, he counterattacks. The attack finally injures the goblin, but it stands once more and begins to heal. Haruka tries to charge another invented skill, but the Emperor attacks him from a distance, sending him crashing into some trees. Haruka endures the attack, exhausted and hurt, but he refuses to give up, not after seeing how hard his companions fought to keep the others safe. The battle continues until dawn, and by then, Haruka manages to defeat the Goblin Emperor and finally reaches level 11. Haruka returns home after such a long time. He analyzes the new skills he's unlocked now that he's level 11 and finally understands his Master of None ability. It takes him much longer to level up, but it makes it much easier to acquire new skills and stats. He realizes that his invention skill can help him exploit the disadvantage of weapon skills, like the one the hooded figure uses. Since he has a faster attack, he's determined to surpass everyone else's broken abilities. The hooded figure finally heads to Haruka's house, and upon seeing him, Haruka is not surprised to discover that the hooded figure is none other than Tanaka, the nerd the bullies used to gather information. The girls return to the city from a mission. Some are worried because Haruka hasn't come back after 2 days, but they are determined to keep leveling up. They then encounter the athletes and are alarmed to see how injured they are. They approach and ask if they're okay, and the athletes respond that they are. The class representative is relieved to see them because she thinks Haruka returned with them, but the leader of the athletes tells her that Haruka is currently fighting. Haruka welcomes Tanaka to his humble home. Tanaka curses and confesses that he was hoping to find the athletes lying in agony and being cared for by the class representative. Haruka apologizes for deceiving him, and Tanaka admits he feels offended for having been tricked by the dumbest in the class, especially after all the work he did to manipulate and control the bullies. Haruka asks if he planned it all from the beginning, and Tanaka confesses that he was behind everything and caused the class to split. Haruka begins to get angry and asks about the rest of the students. Tanaka says it's obvious and that he has already eliminated them all. He then asks where the representative with the looting skill is, since he has no time to waste, especially with a failure who only has the worst skills. Haruka points his staff at him. Tanaka can't believe he wants to confront him, especially being someone who's always alone. Haruka tells him that even loners have people they want to protect. Tanaka accepts the challenge and prepares to destroy him like he did the others. If you've reached this point in the video, don't forget to leave the word Exquisito in the comments. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.